Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the short learning series for managing compliance and lease renewals. So today I'm Jason, I'm one of the product trainers here at Console, and with me is Brooke, one of our senior customer success managers.
Hello.
And also a very experienced property manager. Hey, Brooke, how you going?
Hi, good, thanks.
Awesome. All right, we're going to jump straight in. So just excuse the topics on the right there. They're not correct. I forgot to update them. But we'll run through, we're basically focusing on compliance and really drilling down to use the compliance workflow to help you work efficiently. And then we'll jump over to the lease renewal to work through that workflow. And we'll show you all the bits and pieces with that. So I'm going to hand over to Brooke.
Excellent, thanks, JK. I'm going to share my screen.
Perfect. I'll stop. There we go.
And get started. We'll start on compliance first and have a look at how we can save you time in your compliance workflow and automating some of those mundane tasks. Perfect. Yep. Okay, so what we're going to do is just have a look at compliance and how we initially set that up. So compliance is recorded against a property, and I'm just going to use a property in particular here. So we have all of the compliance items for every state for Australia and New Zealand available to add to your property. Now, property compliance can come in pool compliance, smoke alarm compliance, water efficiency. We're going to focus on smoke alarms because that's the major one that everyone does need to use for residential properties. But all compliance is recorded here against your property. So you can see I've already got one here for pool and spa for Bob's Plumbing. We're going to add another one. So we're going to add a owner compliance. This is for residential. For commercial, you do have the ability to add tenant compliance as well. So when tenants are responsible for the compliance items, but we're going to focus purely on residential at the moment. So the compliance item that I want to add to this property is a smoke alarm. Now, the assigned to, this is really important to get right. The assigned to is the person who is responsible for providing the certificate to say that it's compliant. So it can range from the owner wants to be responsible. You can have a smoke alarm provider. So that would be a creditor that you have set up in your system, or it could be a body corporate. So things like a body corporate pool, they might be responsible in providing the certificate. So you've got a choice of these. Now, these are important because when you turn on automation, we will automatically find the correct person that the smoke alarm request needs to go to. So in this instance, I'm going to say for smoke alarms, we have a smoke alarm provider and they've been set up as a creditor in my system. And I'm going to say that it's Smoke Alarms Group. Now, this would be what you're taking off your last certificate. So you'll have a certificate already for a property. If you don't, then you can leave the last inspected as clear. If you have had it previously inspected, you put in your last inspected date, and the expiry date is 12 months from that last inspected date. Reason being is the smoke alarms need to be checked every 12 months. In Queensland, they also need to be checked on lease renewal. And I'll go into that a little bit more because Cloud actually takes care of that. You don't need to worry about when the lease is going to be renewed. Every time there's a lease renewal, we will create a smoke alarm compliance for you and it will automatically sit in your compliance workflow. So this is just based on the last inspected and when it's due to expire. So I'm going to say, I know this property that I've just taken over from another agency and they had the alarms checked 12 months ago. It is due to expire. Let me just give myself a bit more time and say it was the 30th of December that it needs to be checked again. Now I can add certificates here. I can add any certificate that relates to that compliance item. This is going to update on the property page. It's also going to save in your documents as well. Keep in mind if you're using the owner portal, all your compliance items will show against the owner portal as well. So it will actually show the owner that you have the property up to date and compliance. Now that's been added. And it tells me when it's due to expire. In this case, I've set it due to expire in the next 30 days, so I can show you how that looks in the workflow. So once you've set up your properties and you've set all your compliance items against that, which you can do at any time, when the compliance item is due to expire within 30 days, it will appear in your compliance workflow. So I'm just going to check this particular property so I can show you that it's automatically appearing in here because it's due within 30 days. Now this workflow will show you all the last actions that have been taken. So because we've just added this in, no action has been taken, but we can drill down into this compliance item and see all the details. So who the creditor is, you can see the last certificate, when it was last inspected, and I can see my lease start date was the 24th of the 6th. Now, you can also view the property and you can take manual steps from here. So manually, I can send a message to the assigned to person, and we have a lot of templates already set up for you. So the request to inspect compliance is the template that you would use in this instance. It's just going to ask that creditor if they can check that smoke alarm, because it's due to be inspected by, and it will put in the correct dates. Please attend to this inspection prior to the due date, and it will have the tenant's contact details as well for access. So once you've sent that, we'll ignore this because I haven't set up my smoke alarm, my tenants there yet. Once you've sent that, then that has started your compliance process. What will happen then is once your smoke alarm provider has provided you with the certificate, you can then update the details either manually here, or I'm going to show you how to do that in a faster way. So you can upload the new certificate that you've received. I'm just going to pick a certificate here, and I'm going to say it was now last inspected on the 21st, on the 2021, and our next date is due 2022. Once I save that, I could actually finalize this property, which is done for me automatically because I have automation turned on here. So because automation is on, automation will automatically finalize anytime the dates are updated. But I'll show you how we'll set up automation as well. So I'm just going to go back and reuse this little property or refresh.
Move through that. So I'm imagining automation will be a lot cleaner and a lot
better. Even with manual, it's very quick because you're not having to keep track of this in a spreadsheet outside. We're telling you when it's due. All you have to do is send the message, wait for the certificate to be returned, and then you can add that individually, or you can add them in bulk. So if you receive 20, 30, 40 certificates back from your smoke alarm provider because you use the same one, you can just simply go into here and you can choose all of your certificates that you've received and scanned into the system. We'll show you the certificate here, and just ignore this. We have some demo information here, but it'll show you the certificate for the property that it's for. We'll only show you properties that have compliance items due, so you can add that into that particular compliance item. We'll show you the compliance that is due against, and you can update the last inspected and the expiry date. Save and next, and that's going to update that automatically on the property page and the owner portal and bring up the next one for you. So that is what bulk uploading of the certificate looks like. If you are bulk uploading and you have automation on, automation you can customize to send the pool certificate to a tenant and send the smoke alarm certificate to the owner, or you can turn that off and also automatically finalize the compliance item. So it's important that you always finalize that compliance item. If you don't have automation on, that resets the process, it updates the property, and it makes sure it's ready for the next time the compliance is ready to be due. So that's the way you can bulk upload, and this is really quick. So if you're still doing it manually, you still get the certificate in, upload them in bulk, add them, update your dates, and then everything is done for you. Lastly is your automation settings. So if you do want to go to automation, which is really simple, there's just a few things that you need to check. So we will start the compliance process 30 days before. Now, this is a Dropbox. There are more events that are going to be added to this in the future, but there's only the choice of 30 days at the moment. So don't be confused by that. We will be adding so we can show you more compliance items in the future, and also you can set those days before expiry. But at the moment, it's 30 days. So it gives you plenty of time to send that request to the owner or body corporate or creditor. From there, you have the choice of when you want to send the first email. Now, we have all the templates set to be picked up correctly. So we have a different template for the owner to inspect smoke alarms, because you need to attach a certificate to the owner. If you don't do that, you don't have to, but the choice is available in your template settings to attach the certificate that you want the owner to complete. All other compliance items, if the owner looks after that, they don't need a certificate, so you can, we send a different template there. And again, a different template goes to the creditor than it does to the body corporate, because the body corporate probably isn't inspecting, they're just providing you with the certificate. You can view those templates, and if you want to, go into your template settings and edit those templates. So this is my first setup of, I want the first template to be sent 30 days before the expiry date and at what time you want that to go. Once you've set that, all communication is going to be automatically sent. You then have the choice to send a reminder to that person if you haven't received any action 10 days after that initial renewal request. You can set this to any amount of time, or you can say never. You might not want to send reminders, and you might want to follow that up yourself, which you can do from your workflow. So I'm going to set this to 10 days. That gives them plenty of time to send the request to the tenant and give them access. Again, there are templates here that you can edit. Keep in mind that these are set templates though for automation. So it's best if you only just edit some of the niceties and the wording around how you speak to your owners, creditors, and body corporate. From there, this is what I mentioned before. You can automatically arrange that once you've updated your certificates, if it's a pool and spa, automatically send it to the tenants, and that will send an email with the attachment to the tenant, or automatically send the smoke alarm compliance certificate to the owner. Again, there's more templates. So it's telling you the name of the template, so you can view that and you can edit that back in template settings. So after that, automatically finalize. This is one we want to set up because once you update your details, update your certificate, you just want it to automatically finalize all those compliance items. And again, that's going to update your property details and update your owner portal page. So that's how simple the automation is. Basically, once you've set that up, it is set and forget. Compliance items will fall into this workflow 30 days prior to the expiry, and an email will be sent. If it falls into this workflow after the 30 days, the email will still be sent. There is a check just to check if there's any new compliance items coming in, and the email will then be sent off to the appropriate person. If you want to come in here and check any items, these are all filters. So these filters are handy just to come and check, why are there 21 expired? It may be that the provider never sent anything back to you. So you can see that it's been last inspected on these dates. It doesn't look like we've actually finalised this compliance items, so it needs to be finalised. It will let you know if the details need to be updated as well. So any items of concern or due within 7 days and you haven't heard, you can go in here and send a reminder to that provider. I'm going to say send reminder. But if you have automation on, you don't need to send the reminder unless it's sending a second or third reminder. So just the one reminder will be sent in the automation. So that's pretty much how you manage your compliance items. This will also give you an idea of any that you haven't finalised. So you can see that there are 8 to finalise and go and take that step to finalise. But the only actions you will need to take when automation is turned on is uploading the certificates and updating the dates. So that's it for compliance.
Awesome. So it's really managed by exception, isn't it, Brooke?
Absolutely.
Just like you said. So awesome. Well, thanks for that. Do we want to jump over to lease renewals now? I know that's another hot topic, and it's always just like compliance, a lot of work involved,
a lot of work. Not a lot of data entry, a lot of keeping track on spreadsheets of all the actions, because you're speaking to owners and tenants and getting instructions from both, depending on how you work. Some people speak to the tenant first, some people speak to the owner first. That is up to you. We leave it open so that you can take the actions that you like to take. Again, we have some filters here at the top of the page. So the lease renewal workflow is really great because we have built-in communications that go to the owner and tenant, so that you can easily monitor and audit all the instructions that you receive from both parties, and you have a history of those events that are then saved on the timeline for a later stage. So what I want to look at here is, a lot of people ask about why periodic are shown in the workflow. The reason why periodic is shown here is because there are a lot of agencies who like to see those periodic leases, and they go in here and they like to take action or follow up at some point in time. If you don't want to see your periodic, you just click on fixed term, and fixed term will only show you those that are fixed term leases that you need to follow up. So you can just completely ignore the periodic. You can check any that are expiring 90 days before the lease start date. This list here shows you up to 120 days before, but again, if you just want to concentrate on those 90 days prior, you have those here. These 2 filters here will tell you when a tenant or an owner has responded. So you'll also get a notification up in your bell here that an owner or a tenant has responded to a lease renewal request, but you can then filter. So you can see that in the last 7 days, what tenants have responded, and you can take action on just that particular lease renewal. So I'm going to concentrate here just on my fixed term leases. I want to look at the ones that I haven't sent off yet, or I haven't received any instructions. So this is an easy way to see I've actually taken some action on this first one. The tenant intent was sent, and we're waiting to hear from the tenant. I may want to follow up on that or check who did those actions, and you can see the timeline of events here. In this one here, I can see that the owner has actually provided their instructions. And again, I might want to go in here and take those instructions and now create my lease agreement to send to the tenant. But I'm going to start off with a fresh one and run you through the entire process. So with this fixed term lease, I can see here who the tenants are, what the property is, when it's due to expire. So we have a bit of time on this one. In this one, am going to send the tenant intention first. That's not any means that you need to do it that way. I'm just going to show you the first process. So tenant intention, if you've been speaking to the tenant on the phone, and same as owner, and you already know their intention, you can record it here. So you've got the ability to record and write down notes. If you don't know, then we'll send an email to the tenant asking them of their intention. Again, this template that's going to show is customizable in your template settings, but this template has a fixed or a canned comments attached to it. So there's a link for the tenant to complete and come back to you. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But this lease renewal is going to just let the tenant know that their lease is due to expire. Again, you can change the wording here, but we're asking them to provide their instructions on whether they would like to renew or not. You can also preview the form that the tenant is going to get. So they'll get the email cover letter. They'll then get this instructions. They can tick whether they want to renew. It's just a request to renew. It's not their instructions that they are renewing, or it's a request to vacate, or if they're undecided, and they can give you instructions here. So let's send that one off. And I'm going to receive that as the tenant in my email box. So I'll just wait to receive that. And once the tenant has got that and then responded to you, you'll actually see the response come back into Cloud. Just one moment while I get the email and I'm able to then respond. Any minute, the email will come through to me. Here we go. Now I've got it. There's always just a little bit of a...
Right, you're not usually the tenant and the owner and the property manager.
I know, I'm everything today. So this is my email that I got. I can now say, yep, I would like to renew. I'd like to renew for 12 months. And submit. And that's just the tenant responding and giving you what they would like to do. Again, it's not a fixed contract once they say they would like to request to renew. It's just their intention of what they would like to do. So we can see here, if I refresh my screen, because this wouldn't be all happening at the same time, once the tenant does respond to you, you're going to see the notification bell lets you know there is a response there. So you can see the little bell moving and jiggling there. I can see here there's a renew, and I can see here that the tenant has updated, and that's my filter to let me know that I have one response. So again, if you have a look here, lease renewal intention received, that's going to come back to the user who sent that. So only the user who initially sent that request will receive this, but anyone will see this in the workflow. So you can follow up on anyone's actions at any time. So now that I've got this, I'm just going to clear that. Now that I can see my tenant intent, I can have a look at what they've actually said. So they've renewed for 12 months. So I'm going to go back to the owner and let the owner know that the tenant's wanting to renew for 12 months, and we're going to recommend that they renew. They've been a great tenant. Let's say we'll up their rent by $100. We're recommending 12 months. Now, entering this in is just filling in the fields of the template. So it's not locking anything in. Nothing is updated or concrete until you get your lease back signed and you finalize the workflow. So this is all just a recording system, keeping track of all the actions that have been taken. And once again, the owner has an email. You can edit this email. It's just going to populate these fields here about what you're recommending, and you can send this off to the owner. Again, the owner is going to have a preview form where they can respond. You can attach your CMA. So if you are doing a market appraisal each time, attach that here. The owner will receive it. You can make mention of it, as I've mentioned here, that I've done my market appraisal. If you're not, you can remove those words. You don't need to send that. I'm going to send this to the owner, and then they can have a look for themselves, and they can respond when they are due and ready to respond. And again, I'm just going to get this email so I can show you what that looks like once the owner responds.
Just a note on templates as well, Brooke. I noticed we obviously use a lot of these templates throughout cloud. You can actually edit these if you're not, if you didn't know that already. So you can do that by settings and templates.
Absolutely. So while I'm waiting for that email, I'll just quickly show you settings, templates. The easiest way, because there are a lot of templates set up in cloud, the best way to do it is think about what category you're talking about. So the categories available are all based on workflows, pretty much. So when you're in your template settings here, and sorry, I am at home today, so my internet's a little bit slower, you can filter down to your recipient. So that's an easy way to do it. So if I want to look at the templates I send to an owner in the lease renewal workflow, this will bring it down to the ones that I have. Now, the ones with flags are the ones that are used for automation. So you can see here, this rent recommendation, this is actually the one that I use for sending to the owner recommending their lease renewal. So here I can change anything here, save it. I can add any attachments if I do want fixed attachments to be sent to an owner. And if I have made a mistake and changed it, I can revert back to the original. So once you've made any changes, we give you the ability to revert any of our system templates. So you can see there's a couple of system templates, but that's just an easy way to filter down to what you're looking for. Let's go back to the owner has received their email. And I'll show you what that looks like. Here's the owner's email. As an owner, this is what I'm seeing. The tenant's lease is due to expire. I've carried out a market appraisal and I'm recommending a lease renewal for 12 months at $1,200 per week. The owner can click to respond. And again, they can say, anything here, they can add renew, but only for 12 months, only for 6 months. Any instructions they send will come through to you in your workflow. Again, I'll just refresh, show you what that looks like. Now we've got an owner has responded. We've got another notification in the bell, owner response. And we can filter by that. We can now see the renew from the owner side and have a look in here that the owner said renew. Now, all these actions are going to be recorded and you can see who the owner was, what time they responded. So you have this detail within your timeline. You can refer back to it any time in the future. So now I've got the instructions and I know what I'm doing. Again, you could do that to the owner first and then just send the lease to the tenant. You don't need to do the tenant section. It's up to you and how you run your lease renewal process. Once I have this information up, I'm going to set what the new lease start date is. I can see here it's automatically picking up the next day from the lease end date. And then I can enter in what's going to be, don't hate me if that's the wrong date for 6 months, but that's what we've got.
I'm glad you can do, Matt. I can't do it either. Don't ask me.
Don't normally get them right. So the new amount of the rent amount's $1,200 and the new start date I'm going to say is from the 31st of March 2022. Now you just need to make sure that the rent is not paid up further than the new rent start date. If it's already paid up further, you won't be able to enter that new rent start date. You'll need to do an adjustment in your invoicing. So from here, again, this is just a record of the data that you've agreed on. This information is going to be used in a few places. It's going to be used in your creation of your lease agreement. It's also going to be used at the end of the process when you finalize the lease. So this information, once you finalize, will update the tenancy agreement page. So you don't need to remember anymore to keep track of these dates and update. We'll automatically do it for you once you finalize.
And Brooke, for those that use Console Pay, this might be in your next step. I know there's a lot of offices that use that. Will that update automatically? Or?
Yes, there is a step in this lease renewal process if you're using Console Pay, and I don't have that turned on in this office, so I don't have that action. But yes, Console Pay is brilliant in it's built into a lot of our workflows, and in the lease renewal workflow, it will automatically register that adjustment.
Perfect.
Now, this is based on, this create form is based on your forms integration. So if it's Victoria, it's Vic forms, everywhere else is RealWorks or REI forms. If you have that integration, you're able to select your template here and create your form. So the creation of the form will pull information from cloud and the information that you have just entered, like the owner's details, the tenant details, anything you already have in your template set up for your agency. It'll also pull those new start starting and ending dates that we've just entered, and the rent amount. Now, there is some information that's not pulled through, and these areas do need to be completed. So if there's services to the property, if there's a body corporate, and how many people are allowed to occupy the premises. So those things do need to be entered at the moment. There will be work in the future to add this to cloud so that all of the information pulls through. But just a few areas that you'll need to add, and make sure that they're copied from your last property. Now, once you do that, I'm not going to continue through. Everyone knows how to do their forms, but you would download your form and then you can send that through to your tenant. So the form will be saved here, sending the lease. So I'm going to attach my lease agreement that I just downloaded for Jane Smith here, and we're going to send that to the tenant for signing. Now, this just, again, is another template. You can edit this template and it will have the lease agreement there ready to be sent to the tenant. Again, that information is recorded that you've sent that lease agreement, and now we're just waiting on the tenant to sign it and send it back. Just as a point of difference, we do have in beta at the moment an automated lease renewal workflow, so that this will be automated through DocuSign, and you can just initially send off the instructions to the owner with the lease agreement, and then if the owner agrees, it will pop over to the tenant for signing and come back, all automated. But that is currently in beta, and we can go through that in a different video scenario as well. This being the manual, I'm going to say that I've just received the lease agreement back from the tenant. Now that's outside of the system, but we can update and attach that lease agreement and send the signed copy to the owner. And I'm just going to say that I am the owner. Send it to the owner and the tenant. So you've got the choice here to record that in the workflow. Once you've sent those copies, you can now finalize the lease. So finalizing the lease, and I just want to actually flick back to this property. I thought I had set this up, so my apologies. I want to add some fees on this property, and this would normally be set up before you run your lease renewal workflow. So if you're charging lease renewal fees, you can automatically see that when you're doing your lease renewal finalization. So lease renewal fees, find one that I've set up. So on lease renewal, so you can create agency fees that are on lease renewal, and you can set up multiple. So you may have a lease renewal fee for a 12-month lease. You may have a lease renewal fee for a 6-month lease. It can be 1 week's of rent. It can be half a week's of rent. It can be a fixed fee. And any of those that you have set up against your ownership will appear. I'm going to say we've got 2 because we've got one for a 12-month and one for a 6-month. When I save that, anytime from there in the future, you're doing your lease renewal workflows. When I finalize my lease, you're going to see those fees, and you have the option to unselect. So I'm going to unselect the 12-month fee, and you can name these so you're aware that and that's back in your agency fee settings. You can name that so it says 12-month lease or 6-month lease. You can put a reason for charging or not charging the fee here, which will be recorded on your timeline. Once I do that and finalize, it's going to automatically journal, journal the funds from the owner ledger to the agency fee ledger. So again, it's taken that need to remember to charge these fees later. So you're making sure that you're collecting all the funds owed to your agency. Amazing. Once they finalize, yeah, it's huge. That's big time saver, especially if you're doing 20, 30, 40 lease renewals a month. You now no longer have to journal those funds through. Just done automatically.
Yeah, and I can imagine if it's less error as well, you've got more control over,
of course,
charging the right fee.
Exactly. And last step is we're just making sure you're happy with the details that you've entered previously. So the lease start date, the lease end date, and the new rent amount. And once you're happy with that and hit renew, all of your tenancy details will be updated, the fee charged, and then this will be removed. So once I refresh, you'll no longer see that lease renewal process in your workflow. You're done. So it's a really, really handy way to A, have everything in cloud, B, have an audit log of everything you've done in cloud. So if I go to that property, I can see in my timeline all of the actions that have been taken. So I can see, if I go to my tenancy timeline, I can see all of the actions. Now I don't have a tenancy set up, so that was good. That's why some of those things were failing. It's also a great way to have a number of people working on your lease renewals at one time. So you might have someone who sends off the requests and another person who does the lease agreements, but you can see everything that's been done in the past. So you don't need to go and ask what's happening or check on other notes in other areas. All the actions and by who are recorded in this timeline of events. So that's it. That's how quick and easy a lease renewal process can be. If you do have a tenant who's going to be vacating, once you enter the vacate date, that actually shifts over to the vacate workflow. So if I actually say I know their intention, they intend to vacate. Once I save that, I can put vacate lease and say that they are vacating at the end of the year. And that will now start a vacate process. So they're sitting in the vacate workflow, ready for the vacate actions. And that's it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Brooke. We'll leave it there because that's running out of time. Thanks very much for that.
No problem.
Showing a really deep dive into both of those workflows. We will aim to do a couple more in the new year as well and go through. We might put vacate on that list since it is related. But if you have any questions, don't forget to jump on the chats, ask our support team, or if you pop on help.console.com.au, and we'll take it from there. All right, thanks, Brooke. Have a great day.
No problem.
See you,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.